Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am flying solo this episode, but that is all right. As always, we have another exciting one. We are taking it out to the OG in Galveston today, the good old Magic, a ship that I love oh so much. And to discuss the Magic today, we would like to welcome back our guest, Andy. Andy, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for reaching out and coming back on the show. I love when we get to give the Magic some love here. And we also have a pretty cool sailing to discuss. Why don't you let our listeners know what sailing you booked?
We were on a 5-night cruise out of Galveston, Texas on the Magic, and we were sailing concierge this cruise, so we really enjoyed that. And we were quite surprised that it became a Marvel Day at Sea. It wasn't initially billed that it was going to be a Marvel Day at Sea. We got that notice about 6 months before we were going to sail.
Awesome. Well, before you even get on board, you can take advantage of some early reservation access with concierge. What did you utilize with that to book early?
Well, that was interesting because it was something I hadn't done before, and so I kind of had to teach myself. This was another cruise that I had booked without a travel agent, which has its pluses and minuses. The minus being I kind of had to figure it out on my own. But I learned how to write the letter, and I wrote a letter to concierge asking them for prima notte at Palo, also a Palo brunch and a Palo dinner. And then we booked one excursion through them.
Well, this sailing was out of Galveston. What was your plan to get down to Texas for this sailing?
Well, my husband is an airline pilot, and he is based out of Dallas, Texas. So he is currently works in their schoolhouse as a check pilot. And because of that, he has a car in Texas. So we thought it would be kind of fun, being that we live in Ohio, which is obviously in the middle of the country, landlocked, that it would be fun to fly into Dallas, drive down to Galveston, and be able to, show up early and have our own car and be able to drive back to the airport when we were done and not be really contingent on needing Ubers and things like that. So I flew into Dallas 2 days prior to the cruise and actually got to go to a company function with my husband, which I don't usually do since I live in Ohio. And then we drove down the day prior to the cruise and stayed in a lovely hotel. It's a historic hotel in downtown Galveston called Hotel Tremont. And it was literally walking distance to the port. We had dinner right next door to the port and walked to dinner the night before, but of course drove to the port with our bags the next morning.
Awesome. About how long of a drive is that from Dallas?
A little longer than we thought it'd be. I would say we probably took about 4 hours. After we did it, it was kind of like, well, maybe that wasn't as much fun as it could have been, because literally from Dallas to Galveston, there's not a lot in between until you hit Houston, which is really, really close to Galveston. But we had fun. We hit a lot of Buc-ee's on the way. So I'd never been in a Buc-ee's before, so we enjoyed that experience. I don't know that I need to go back to a Buc-ee's, but it was fun. And so, yeah, it was a little bit long of a drive. Driving across Texas can sometimes feel like it's a monumental task, but we had fun.
Would you say for people under a normal circumstance booking it, Houston is the better play to fly into?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Yes, definitely. It was easy for me to fly into Dallas when you're flying, as I was as a spouse of an employee, just having to do one hop from my home airport to the Dallas airport was a lot easier than trying to get to Houston, which would have required a stop in Dallas and then hop on another flight. So for us, it worked out. But no, Houston is definitely the better airport to fly into. And even it is a little far. I believe it's like a 90-minute drive from Houston to the port, plus or minus with traffic.
Well, let's go ahead and make our way aboard the Magic. What was the port situation like sailing out of Galveston? What were kind of like your expectations for that port?
Well, this was only my third Disney cruise. So I won't say I had huge expectations. I've only ported out of Port Canaveral before. I would say that it felt much smaller, a smaller operation. The people working there were very friendly. We literally parked like half a block, I guess is how to describe it, half a block from the door into the port. It was so easy to get out and just wheel our bags in. It went very quickly. Because we were concierge, we were able to show up early. And we did take some, those initial pictures that you can take right before you get onto the ship. And we were seated in a concierge seating area in the port, but we were whisked right on the ship very quickly. It was very smooth. I thought it was a really nice port experience. I wouldn't mind sailing out of Galveston again, given the opportunity. I'd just fly into Houston first.
Lovely. Was this your first time on the Magic then?
Yes, it was. I'd been a little nervous about that. We'd only been on the Treasure, which was almost brand new when we got on the Treasure. And then I'd been on the Wish with my daughter last fall. And so I hadn't been on one of the older ships. And I will say when we walked in, I was very surprised how small the atrium, is it called an atrium, is on the Magic, but it was beautiful. The entry in is still just as magical as it is on any Disney ship. And, they greeted us with the welcome the Cobb family, and we just loved it.
Amazing. Well, you get on board. Where do you head to explore the Magic first?
Well, again, because this was our first concierge experience, we went straight to the concierge lunch. We didn't know, we kind of took the long way to get there, but that's where we went. And that was just lovely. The menu was delicious. It was held in Lumiere's, and our concierge host came around and introduced himself. His name was Diogo, and the spa people came in and kind of, I won't say it wasn't a high pressure sales, but here are the spa things that you can do. Are you interested in any of them? And that was lovely. And we were given a drink to toast our departure, and had a really nice lunch in there. And then we were also able to get into our rooms much earlier than I had expected. Our rooms were ready by noon, just lifted the tape and were able to go straight to them.
Well, let's go ahead and roll with that. What kind of room did you book, and how did you feel about the concierge cabin aboard the Magic?
We were in I guess it's called the Family Deluxe cabin with veranda. We talked about maybe trying a 1-bedroom, but with it just being my husband and I, this one was the perfect size. It was appointed, lovely, that everything was so comfortable. The pillow selection and the bedding, everything was just beautiful. It didn't feel like it was that much different than the room on the Treasure, being that it's the same veranda type stateroom, but it was very nice. We were very happy with it. I was just going to say, from there we went to the concierge lounge, which I will say I'm very glad that we started our concierge experience on the Magic. From what I hear, it's a smaller room. It doesn't have the outside balcony, the things that I wouldn't have even expected. And so I was blown away by it. The fact that there was food and drink and a refrigerator, and everyone was so welcoming, and there's tables and comfortable chairs. And, my husband and I kind of found our table. And I will say we pretty much sat at that table almost every time we went into the concierge lounge. It had 2 really nice chairs and looked out at the ocean, and we just loved it. The staff in there was friendly. One of our other concierge hosts was Mariella. And then we also met Raymond and Carlos, and the 2 that I remember their names. They worked the bar and kind of circled in the room we were in. There were a few others. I don't remember what their names were, but everyone was so welcoming. And it was such a nice experience to have a place to go and just kind of be away from the hustle and bustle. Um, I love going into, well, on the Magic, it's Cabanas. On the other ships, it was Marceline Market. I like going in and having those selections and things, but sometimes there's so many people and it's so easy to get a little overwhelmed by the crowds. And it was really nice to just have this nice quiet place to go and relax in the afternoon and enjoy it. We really enjoyed that. We met a nice family that was traveling together and talked with them for a little while. Turned out we were rooming kind of almost next door to them. They had a 1-bedroom suite next to us, and they were from Ohio and just lived maybe an hour from us. So that was really funny to be able to talk about the cold weather we were avoiding by being down in the Gulf of Mexico.
Did you spend a good amount of time in that lounge?
Over the course of the 4 days that we were on the ship, yes. Yeah, I would say we went there at least once in the morning. Their coffee is amazing. And then we would usually spend a couple of hours there in the afternoon. We'd come back in the evening for some drinks because I guess from 5 to 10, the beverages are free. The alcoholic beverages are free in the lounge. And so we would go there. One of the nice perks was being able to go to the shows through a back entrance, and you could take a drink with you when you went to the shows as part of concierge, and we really enjoyed that. Before we attended the show for that, the nighttime spectacular that they had for that, our concierge host was telling us, okay, that you want to make sure you stand on the starboard on the 10th deck and get this view because you'll be able to have a really fabulous view. So I felt like we were given very personalized tips and help that was really, I appreciated it so much that it was nice to have. I understand kind of what you're paying for when you stay in concierge.
Let's move away from concierge a bit and just talk about the Magic as a whole. What kind of spaces on the Magic kind of stuck out to you?
Well, like I said, I was really surprised just at the size difference between the Magic and the Treasure and the Wish, and it was very cozy, and I don't mean that in a negative way at all. It was just so nice to be able to walk. Well, for starters, walk around the ship. We did a lot of that on the track. We really enjoyed the walking track. And how it didn't take long to figure out where we were on the ship. The shops were easily accessible right off the main entrance. And Soul Cat Lounge, we were there quite a few times. The duo that was singing there were just spectacular. The female singer had her sister on board, and so her sister was singing with her a few times, and she did a lot of Selena's music in Spanish, which was just wonderful to hear. And then they sang a lot of the hits from earlier years, we'll say, like the 60s, 70s, probably 80s as well, but songs that I recognized and knew the words to. It was wonderful. So we sat in there a lot. I really enjoyed the spaces to gather on the ship. They were just felt very welcoming and, like I said, cozy. We did the adult area of the Keys. Yes, we went to Keys several times. We did go to a few of the shows in the larger bar that's there. It was nice. We didn't eat in cabanas very often. Having the concierge lounge to get your snack, we did that more often than eating in the other areas of the ship, although we did have a little bit of the pool food.
Well, why don't we go ahead and roll with dining? Why don't you talk a little bit about the rotational dining restaurants and what stuck out to you?
So we had the Marvel Night, which had its own special menu. And I believe we were in the Tangled dining for that. And then Lumiere's, and then Tangled and Animator's Palette. And I was not blown away by the dining, but I enjoyed it very much. The Tangled experience was, the show that they do was fabulous. We were celebrating my husband's birthday on the cruise and had chosen that night to be the night that we were going to have his birthday. And of course, that's the coolest time because Rapunzel's celebrating her birthday as well. So it was really nice. They had everybody who was having a birthday stand up, and it was a lot of fun. Our serving team was very nice. The head server, we only briefly met, and then our server was from Indonesia. His name was Antara, very nice. And then our assistant server was, I think, she wasn't earning her ears, but I would say she was still pretty new. She was from Trinidad and Tobago, such a nice woman, and genuinely seemed to be trying really hard to make sure she was doing everything correctly. And so we had a lot of fun with that. We did not attend Lumiere's on the last evening of our sailing. We did Palo instead, and so I was not able to taste what was their regular menu, which I would have really liked to. I regret that. That's kind of one of the things that I'm learning is difficult on Disney cruises, that you don't know your dining rotation until you get on the ship. And so anything that you've booked, it might interfere with something you thought you wanted to do. But I did learn that when you're in concierge, you can ask and you can request. And I did not know that, but now I know. I loved Animator's Palette. Oh my gosh, that just blew me away. I didn't expect it to. But to walk into the black and white room and then have all the colors and the pictures come to life and Sorcerer Mickey, and that was so much fun. And I would say it was probably the best meal I had during the trip, enjoyable meal. I loved the Percet. They were amazing, delicious. They were wonderful. So I really, really liked Animator's Palette. And I'm going to be going on another cruise that has an Animator's Palette, and I'm looking forward to experiencing that as well. So yeah, it was so much fun.
It was per fan favorite, and they're a favorite of mine, but I love that classic Animator's Palette dining room. I think that is one of my favorite themes of all of their restaurants for sure.
It literally was like everywhere you looked, it'd be like, oh, look, that's a brush. That's not just a column. Oh, look, and trying to figure out what the cartoons were as they were drawing them. And it was just so much fun. Yeah.
Love it. Well, let's move into some specialty dining here, because you have quite a bit of Palo to talk about.
Yeah. I had been to Prima Notte when I went on the cruise with my daughter, and felt guilty that my husband hadn't gotten to experience it. So I took him to that on this cruise. I would say nothing was different as far as the food and the drink. It's such a nice experience, though. It's a small group. I want to say there were maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 of us at the table. You have such nice conversations with people that you otherwise wouldn't meet. It's a lot quieter than the main dining rooms. I really enjoyed that aspect of it just as much as tasting the food. And tasting the food is definitely worth it and a lot of fun. And the wines are delicious. So I really like going to Prima Notte. Palo Brunch was amazing. Of course, you feel so full after you finish it. Our waiter at Palo Brunch was Christo, and he was from Bulgaria, but his son was going to college in Ohio, which we talked about Ohio for a while. And, it's so funny how I'm not originally from Ohio, but wherever you go, you meet somebody from Ohio. We're like everywhere in the world. So that was fun to talk with him. He gave us all sorts of recommendations, but, I love the almond croissants. Fabulous, fabulous. My husband got to have eggs Benedict with the caviar and loved that. Celery soup, the Parmesan chicken. We tried the zabaglione, which was an Italian dessert. I don't know that I probably butchered the way it's pronounced, but that was delicious. And it was such a nice experience. I will say the one kind of funny thing is, and I feel like there should be signs, the Palo restaurant is all windows on the Magic. And there's deck space at the front of the ship where it is. And so there were this family who came up there to work out, which is great. But they were doing their stretches right in front of the window. And it was like, do they realize there's people in here, or do they think that there's no rooms here? It was almost comical.
Quick question on the prima notte. Was that basically one big table of people, the way you described it?
Yes. Actually, both times that I've done it, because we did it on the Wish and now again on the Magic, it was one large table, kind of in a separate room. I would say it's probably where you can book a private room, a larger party, and every seat at the table was full, but that's obviously where they cut it off. And my husband and I would say most couples sat next to each other, but it was easily, you could talk across the table to see the people that were around you, and the whole table could have a conversation. So it was lovely.
Interesting. Yeah, I've only done it on the Fantasy, and it was like you sat in like different booths, basically.
Yeah, see, and I've only done it on the two that I've done it, and it was really nice. I liked the interaction with the guests. We had a really nice time talking with the girls next to us. The one girl was knitting as she ate, not knitting, crochet as she ate, and she made a cute little crocheted magnet of Groot that she ended up putting on our door for us. And it was just like, oh, I love it.
Well, I believe we also have to talk about Palo dinner.
Palo dinner. This is where we made the newbie mistake, and we booked our Palo dinner for our last night on the cruise. And by that time, we'd eaten and drank so much on our cruise, we were like, oh my gosh, what are we going to eat? What are we going to eat? We're so full. But it was a lovely dinner. We had the exact same server again, and it was so nice to be greeted by him, as if we're old friends coming to join him at the table. I would say everything that we were served could have easily fed 2 people. Lesson learned, if we were to do it again, I do think I would stick to the prefix menu, where you could just choose a few items and share, because we ended up with way too much food on our table. It was delicious. I love the egg. That's like my favorite dish. I would say that's probably my favorite dish of the entire cruise line. But as far as all of the food, we ordered asparagus and potatoes and something else in addition to our main course, and it's all in front of us, and neither of us can finish what's on our own plate, much less the food in front of us. It was quite a bit. Now, I did order the amaretto souffle as my dessert, and it was amazing, but I really only had room for maybe 3 bites, and that felt like such a waste. It was worth every bite, but felt like such a waste by the end.
Say, hopefully still a lovely experience, though.
Oh, it was. It's such a beautiful restaurant, and having gone now on 3 different ships for different things, but having been in the dining rooms, they're also different, but also the same, and they're so beautiful. Everything about them is beautiful. Well worth the expense, and I loved it.
Well, let's go ahead and turn to entertainment. Did you see any of the main shows throughout the sailing?
Yes. We saw all of the shows. I was very excited because I had not done that before, but I loved the Twice Charmed, which I guess others have said, oh, it's kind of icky, but I thought it was beautiful. Cinderella is one of my favorite stories, so it was a cute little show, and it was kind of like our first experience to be able to come in, choose where we're going to sit, and have the view we wanted without having to try to stand in line and rush in. The woman who played Mother Gothel in Tangled and also played Lady Tremaine in Twice Charmed was Meredith Inglesby, who I guess is a Broadway star, and beautiful, beautiful voice. And she was also doing a singing show on the cruise. It was wonderful to see her. She did such a wonderful, wonderful job, and the mice were adorable. And then the Dreams performance was adorable. I really loved the actress that was playing Anne Marie on our cruise. She was just adorable. cute little show. They had amazing voices. I was just blown away by the caliber of talent that Disney has on their ships. It's really it's wonderful to see. So, and as I said, oh yes, we went to all the shows. No, we missed the Tangled performance because that was the night that we went to Prima Notte. And again, this is where I say, as a newbie, I didn't realize that I'd be missing kind of the main show when I booked Prima Notte. But, it's like you live and learn. We're just going to have to get back on the Magic again soon so I can see it. Since I guess that's the only ship it's on. I loved the Tangled dining experience, but unfortunately, we didn't get to see the show.
What other activities or entertainment did you see aboard the ship?
Well, obviously, Marvel Day at Sea was one of the big highlights of the cruise for our sailing. It was a lot more fun than I kind of expected it to be. It wasn't something that I don't know that I would have seeked it out to book it. I like Marvel, but it's not my passion. I don't love Marvel that much. But it was a lot of fun. It was so nice to see the Disney characters in their Marvel costumes. It was really nice. We were able to through our concierge, we requested a photo experience. So we did a photo experience with Spider-Man, Black Panther, and Iron Man, and those were just hilarious. I mean, we had a wonderful little conversation with Spider-Man about his aunt's cooking, and I invited him to dinner at my house, and he said he'd come. He hasn't come yet, but we're still waiting. And then I messed up and told Iron Man that Spider-Man was my favorite Marvel character and got in trouble for that. And it was a lot of fun to interact with them that way. And then there was a spectacular show at that night on the deck in place of our pirate show, which I thought I was going to miss the pirate show, but this one was just wonderful. And like I said, our concierge host had told us to stand on the 10th deck, kind of just above the stage. He said, you'll have a great view. And it turns out that we were standing kind of right where the Marvel reporter, Andy Anderson, would do her reporting on the scene. This is Andy Anderson coming to you live. And so that was really neat to be so close to that. And she chose like 3 people to do a little interview, I'll say, with her. And I wish that I would have raised my hand, but some other people raised theirs first, and it was a very cute interaction, and the show was amazing. I mean, Spider-Man rappels across the stage, and you've got Ms. Marvel and the Black Panther and Loki, and there were just so many characters. It was amazing how many characters there are. You kind of realize that one of the reasons it's a Marvel Day at Sea is because they must have pulled every single talent from the ship into this show. There were so many people. There were good guys and bad guys and fighting, and it was just a lot of fun.
That show still remains my favorite deck show of any ship. It is so good and so fun.
Yeah, the fireworks with the drones, fighting the drones in the sky. It was amazing.
Did they do the USO show?
They did. And I caught, I would say, the tail end of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but it was really fun. I really enjoyed that. Yeah.
Awesome. Any other highlights from Marvel Day at Sea?
It was really interactive. They would do shipboard announcements like Doctor Strange or invisibility cloak, your cloak, I forget what it's called, but your cloak is in the spa and it's misbehaving. You need to return to retrieve it. They make announcements on the ship, and it was cute. And there was Marvel music played all day, and a lot of people dressed up for it. My husband and I wore matching Roosevelt shirts instead of costumes. Very interactive day. We really enjoyed it.
We have had all sorts of fun aboard the Magic, but we still have some port stops to talk about. You have a stop in Progresso and Cozumel. Which one was first?
Well, they actually flipped the port stops. for our sailing due to incoming weather that was going to be hitting. And we were originally going to do Cozumel, then Progreso, but instead we stopped in Progreso first and then went to Cozumel. And we did not get off the ship in Cozumel. It was just kind of, we'd gone there this summer and decided to make that a sea day instead. It was very, very windy. We had originally thought we would get off and kind of walk around the port area there, but it was just, I won't say the weather was bad. It was still sun was still shining, etc. But it was just a windy, windy day. And so we enjoyed ourselves on the ship. We played trivia and spent some time in the concierge lounge, listened to music, that kind of thing. But then in Progreso, we did a beach day excursion. We were picked up by an escort and a bus, and the guide. It was about a 45-minute drive. I guess the port is very far out in Progreso due to coral, much like it is Lookout Key. And so it was about a 45-minute drive to the beach that we went to. And our driver gives us all sorts of local history, information, things about the nature in the area. And it was very interesting. And then when we get there, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Now that I know, I liked it. You walk in, there's restrooms, there's a restaurant, and there's the beach and a pool. And I kind of somehow thought we were that we would be going to like a hotel and renting out space at their pool and their beachfront, but it's like a business setup to have a place on the beach. It was very nice. The drinks were free and the buffet was free. It was delicious. They had kayaks available. They had shaded lounge chairs on the beach. The margaritas were delicious. The buffet was delicious. They had tacos, quesadillas, guacamole, chips, just about anything you could want, even hot dogs and French fries for the kids that might not like Mexican food. I believe this is a kind of a Caribbean-wide problem, but there was a lot of seaweed. So I didn't spend a lot of time in the water, a little bit, but not much. It was the beach itself was pretty. My husband and I walked probably a mile down, maybe 2 miles down the beach. We picked up a stray dog along the way who followed us back. Didn't mean to, but the dog just kept following us the whole way back to the resort. But it was a very nice, calm, relaxing, enjoyable excursion. Our friends that we met on the boat did a much more adventurous excursion. They went to a cenote and a snorkel excursion. Hearing about theirs, I was like, oh, I would have enjoyed that. I've done that type of excursion before. And so that's why I was like, I kind of just this trip was about relaxing. That's why we did the beach day. But I think we would have enjoyed the cenote just as much or maybe better.
That was the one you booked through Disney, correct?
Yes, we booked it through Disney, yes. I still haven't gotten up the nerve to book an excursion not through Disney. I realize that they're mostly going to be safe for getting us back on time, but that is part of my personality. I would spend the entire excursion worried that we're not going to get home in time. So it's better that I'm booked on one through Disney, at least now while I'm new to the game, let's say.
That is all right. Well, sounds like such a lovely sailing. Was there anything else that you'd like to discuss that we haven't hit already?
Not really. I can say I was very happy to have gone on the Magic. It was really nice, and I do hope to sail on it again. We'll be sailing on the Wonder in December of this year, and I'm looking forward to being on that one. I won't be in concierge on that sailing, but I have a feeling it's going to be just as lovely. It was a great show.
Awesome. Well, we hope when you go on that sailing, you come back and share your thoughts with us.
Yeah, I'm excited. We're doing a New Year's Eve cruise with the whole family again, so it'll be a crowd.
That'll be awesome. Yeah, Magic is such a fun ship, and it's an awesome ship to just like go and relax on.
Right. Well, and that was our thought with this whole cruise. I wanted to do something kind of a little bit of a spoil ourselves trip. We did several spa treatments and appointments on the sailing, and really just took it easy. And I think that was one of the most lovely things about being in concierge, was it gave us that extra little pampering during this trip that let us do that. Great, wonderful time. Very enjoyable. It amazes me that the ship is as old as it is. I would have never guessed.
I feel that. Well, let's move into disembarkation. What was that process like, and how did you get home?
I was amazed at how quickly we were able to get off the ship. We put our bags out. Concierge is able to put their bags out a little bit later, so that was really nice. Since we had Palo for dinner that night, we didn't have to rush back and pack our bags as quick as we could. And we literally went to the concierge lounge that morning, had a few bites, and were whisked off the ship in an elevator that Mariella from concierge held for us, and Diogo met us at the bottom, and we were shown off the ship. It was lovely and went very smoothly. And our car was waiting there for us, and we had a lovely drive back to Dallas and stopped at a few more Buc-ee's along the way. And we flew out the next morning. We actually spent a little bit of time in Dallas that night and had a nice little relaxing evening before we came back home.
Sounds like such a lovely cruise. Did you have any other notable cast interactions you wanted to highlight?
In the spa, we did. And my husband had several, I'll call them mini treatments. He had a haircut, a shave, teeth whitening. He had several little things done during the trip. And Rodell and Nellie were the two who he worked with in the spa, and he loved it. He felt so pampered. He'd been working quite a bit. That's kind of one of the downsides of being an airline pilot. They don't spend quite as much time at home as they want. And so it was really nice for him to be able to just not have to worry about work for a while and take care of himself. And so he really enjoyed that. And then I had a spa treatment with the doctor on board, and he was just lovely. I really, really enjoyed that. And his name was Dr. Kannan, Kannan. Had a very nice time. The spa was lovely. I usually feel like I'm being upsold, and maybe it was because we had booked several things. They didn't feel like they needed to upsell us anything. We had a very nice, relaxing experience with that as well. We did not do the rainforest room in the spa, but I didn't feel like I missed it at all. We had the concierge lounge, so that was fun.
Well, what is something that you wish you knew about the Magic before your sailing that you know now?
Well, I guess in a way, I would say not to be worried about that it was going to be old. I mean, it was lovely. It was wonderful. I can't say that there's any one thing about the Magic that I wish I'd known. We loved it. We had a wonderful time. I do wish I'd known my dining rotation ahead of time so I could have scheduled better. But otherwise, it was wonderful. And I imagine there's some reason that they don't give you the rotation ahead of time. I'm not sure what it is, but there's got to be some logic behind it. And I wish it were a little easier to go trade without having to get into a long line. Everything went so smoothly. It was lovely.
Love to hear it. Well, Andy, thank you so much again for coming on and sharing your experience on the Magic.
Thank you. It was wonderful.
Well, that is going to wrap up our show. As always, you can follow Christy at Pack Your Pixie Dust and utilize her travel services by hitting the Book with Christy link below. You can follow myself at MouseGen on Instagram and YouTube, and you can follow the podcast at DCL Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time on the D Podcast. Bye, guys. Well, that's going to wrap up our show. Once again, we want to thank Andy for coming on and sharing her family's adventure on the Disney Magic. If you're enjoying the show, we'd greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailing and safe travels. We'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.